Well, thanks everybody, and thanks for taking the time to come and take in our session today. I just want to introduce to everyone to Robert Kaiser. Robert is the President and CEO of Innovating Plant Products, and it's a product that we carry here that supports the growing of cannabis. With the change in laws, we thought this is something that we need to explore further and get some education, and so that's why he's here today, to do that for us. So anyway, take it away, Robert.
All right, it's pretty simple. Everybody kind of understands what's happening now. We're into a new era. We're legalized. You're allowed to grow 4 cannabis plants per household over the age of 19, which is very exciting because that's, well, my dream, literally. So what we did is we developed a line of nutrients specifically for cannabis. All right, you can cross this over to other products, but we'll discuss that again later. But as it stands is, cannabis requires enormous amounts of nutrients. It really does. It's kind of like when you look at a tomato plant, how a tomato plant requires enormous amounts of calcium, right? Cannabis does very well when it's fed. When it's not fed and you're feeding it something basic, it won't do so well. So this line has been developed over a 10-year period. So we've gone through all the trials and tribulations to make this work extremely well. What stands us out for most is ours is extremely clean. Okay, we only use Canadian-made products. That's a lie. 15% is American, but it used to be 100% Canadian. But we're trying to get back to that. We try to buy the best raw materials because after all, you're consuming this product. People are going to consume this product. You don't want crappy salts in that product. Again, with the line, you have bases, which is your macro and micronutrients, and then you have your additives. Your bases is what every plant requires, right? Calcium, nitrate, potassium, sulfates, all that good stuff. Your micronutrients like manganese and boron and all that good stuff. What we did is in our bases, we also added fulvic acid, humic acid, carbs, and silicate. That helps the plant in so many ways, which we'll touch on with the Gold Storm, Black Storm, and why the plant requires all that. So right off the bat, if you're using these nutrients and you're promoting these over every other one, that's something no one else does in the industry. Nobody. We're the only ones. So if you take this product and go head to head with any other product out there, you're going to see a much healthier, happier plant. And the best part is because we use the best raw materials, it's a lot easier to go in and out of the plant. So we do combine synthetic and organic materials to make that work. So those are the bases. Now I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that whole general hydroponics. That's what the 3-part was bases, right? So we have a 3-part and a 2-part. The 3-part is mostly built for beginners. Anybody can use it. Follow the schedule, works like a dream. You're gonna have a beautiful plant in the end. The 2-part, however, is a little bit more advanced. So what makes it more advanced is that you can raise your parts per million levels, right? Let's step back. Does everyone know what parts per million is? Your salt levels in your reservoir, right? Everyone knows what pH is, right? The pH of your solution. A pH for cannabis is around 6.2. If you keep it around 6.2 in soil and cocoa, you'll do extremely well. I mean, some people adjust it up and down, but don't. 6.2 does great. Parts per million is the amount of food that's actually sitting in that reservoir. So the higher parts per million sometimes doesn't work so well. So marijuana plants, cannabis plants roughly are very happy around 1,200 to 1,400. So when you're using the base nutrients and you follow the schedule, you're gonna come in around that number every single time. And if you look at the cannabis as a whole, you have a lot of different strains, a lot of different families, a lot of different things with this plant, but that will always work on all of them in every growing situation. That will work. The 2-part, however, because it's more concentrated, all right, so when you start using it, you'll see the parts per million are gonna climb dramatically, right? So then if you got an experienced grower who's grown for maybe 3 or 4 years or more, they go to the 2-part, they'll know how to lower it. It's very easy, 2-part, equal parts, can't go wrong, right? So if you're putting 2 mils in, you lower it to 1.5, vice versa, go up to 2.5, depending on the health of the plant. That's the difference between the bases. So for me, I promote the 3-part for beginners, the two-part for intermediate and more advanced growers. A lot of people are going to come in here already and look at the two-part and know exactly what it is, and they're going to pick it off the shelf. There's a lot of people that use our two-part. It's actually the biggest seller that we have right now, but we're about to be flooded with all these beginner growers. So I'm telling stores, please promote the three-part. Let the two-part sell itself for now, and then when those growers come back, you bring them into the two-part. So those are your bases. Any questions? Of course. Kelly?
Sorry.
That's okay.
With the three-part, can you just dilute it in water and have it on your outdoor plants, or does it have to be hydroponic?
Okay.
Does it have to be in a reservoir, or can they just buy the three-part, throw their plants in the ground?
You have to make a reservoir, regardless, yeah. And they have to be mixed separately. So you put your 40 liters of water, and then you put your grow in, then you mix it, you put your micro in, you mix it, you put your bloom in and mix it. These are really highly concentrated nutrients. If you mix them together, it would take 1 drop of micro into your bloom and it will crystallize the bloom.
Okay.
So yeah, you wanna, mix it up. And yes, people outdoor use that. Now, as for legalization, for when people come in here, you're not legally allowed to grow your cannabis plants where people can see them.
Yes.
So that's the outdoor question. I think I answered that for you in the thing. So make sure of that. Okay, so that's the basis. Now what we do is, because there's a lot of really cool stuff out there now. I mean, like humic acid, fulvic acid. We understand how carbs work in a plant. We understand all this cool stuff now, right? Seaweed, cytokines, all this really natural hormones that plants absolutely love. So now we've started looking into putting in these additives, which would make the plant even do more stuff, like grow bigger flowers, grow more resin or more crystals, more terpenes, more everything. I mean, more CBDs, everything. I mean, you're really pumping the plant up. So what we did was, because we can't do a full organic blend yet and still produce the numbers that we can, we do most of our additives are organic. So right off the bat is B+. B+ you use throughout the whole thing. I know that sounds like a lot, really. I mean, and more products every time. $21 for 250 mils, but this does 500 liters. That's a half a milliliter. I mean, that's a great value. And what this product does, it's kind of a health tonic for plants. It kind of staves off stuff like shocks. And as we know, humans are really bad. I mean, we're the worst. We will neglect plants, we will beat up plants, we will cut plants, we will literally abuse these things all the time. This is the plant's protection. This helps the plant recover. So it's full of seaweed, it's full of kelp, it's got humic acid in it, it's got all kinds of great organics. This is a 100% organic product. Works really well, especially for transplanting. So when you're transplanting your plants, you up this by, instead of 0.5 mils, you up it to 1 mil, and the plant will recover twice as fast. It's an amazing little product. That's all the way through. The other one is Black Storm, humic acid. Does anyone know about humic acid? Nobody? Humic acid? Humic? No? Humic? Okay. Humic acid's an amazing product, man. It's been around for quite a long time, almost 40 years. It comes from a product called leonardite. Leonardite is petrified plant matter that we mine in Saskatchewan. We make our own humic acid. We are the only ones in the industry that does this. Everybody else buys it third party. The benefits of humic acid. Wow, where do I begin? Let's see. It's a natural chelator. So what it'll do is it'll take all the nutrients that you're putting in that reservoir, chelate it into a pretty little package and feed it to the plant. It does this remarkably well. So then the plant's not building up all these salts in the plant where you start getting nutrient lockup. We don't get nutrient lockup because of our humic acid. It's just amazing. Water retention. So it retains more water, okay? So it holds it into the ground. It doesn't allow it to precipitate out as fast. So farmers, we sell a lot to farmers in the prairies, we sell a lot to vineyards, orchards, because they're using less water. They're feeding less times, right? I mean, it's amazing, right? It blocks heavy metals from the plant and pulls heavy metals out. Very long explanation, I'll make it short. It does it because I swear to God it's alive, all right? I don't know any other product does it, but it is proven. This is proven that it will pull heavy metals out of a plant. It also pulls heavy metals out of humans. Okay, a friend of mine had mercury poison. Mercury poison is that stuff you can't get out of your body. He started a humic fulvic complex and the mercury left. Like, he is mercury free. So now the doctors are looking into this as well. But that's what it does for plants as well. It's also a natural base or natural form of silicate, which one of the best natural forms of silicate too, which plants require for transpiration. So it requires silicate for all kinds of stuff, cell development, cell wall building, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this is the golden ticket. We're the only ones that make this product. It's amazing. This is a crossover. You can sell this to all gardeners, every gardener. I mean, tomato farmers, cucumbers, peppers. I use this in every one of my vegetables. Actually, I use my whole line of my vegetables, but this is one of the staples. It never comes out, no matter what. I would never water without it. I just wouldn't do it. That's the humic. Fulvic acid. Fulvic we only put in the veg cycle. If you look at the feed chart, which we should have handed out, but if you look at the feed chart, there's fulvic acid. Again, we make our own. So what we do is we mine the leonardite, we extract our humic from our leonardite, we extract our fulvic from our humic. Again, we're the only ones in the industry that actually do this. This fulvic acid, you could use up to 15 mils per liter onto a plant. Watch what that plant does. Amazing. Literally, take one of your house plants here and do it. Oh lordy, it's gonna grow. It's gonna be a jungle. This is the true cell wall builder. Like it multiplies them fast, but strong. Like it doesn't stretch the plant, doesn't make it wimpy. It becomes like a nice solid tree. It's amazing. Also starts the production of their defenses. So for the cannabis plant, their defenses are what everybody's after, right? The trichomes, the grease, the crystal, the THC. And so this starts to kickstart that even in the veg cycle. It will start to kickstart it. We had a company in Vienna, Austria, that was using our Gold Storm for their baby farm because they're legally allowed to grow the little clones. And when they got their mothers tested by using the Gold Storm, they went over the THC count. So they had to buck them down because they were only allowed 1.5% THC in that mother. They were pumping already almost 5%. And that's from the fulvic acid. That's basically your veg cycle right there. I mean, that's the whole thing. And then, that's another thing I should have touched on. Do you understand between veg and bloom, right? So you veg the plant for a certain amount of weeks at 18 hours a day, and then you flip it to the 12-hour cycle, then it turns into your bloom. And that's where the buds start to form. So basically what I just showed you, that's your veg. Now in the bloom cycle, we take out the Gold Storm because of course we put it in here and we put it in there. And it's also in our jet fuel and it's naturally in the humic. So you get it for free afterwards in the bloom. So in the bloom, what we want to do is we want to get this plant moving quickly. So when you take a plant from 18 to 12, it's going to try to shoot it up. So the veg cycle is still going to try to go for another week and a half, which we don't want, right? What we want it to do is go straight to flower production. And that way you get bigger flowers and you don't have to grow as much. So what we did is, I don't see it here, but we developed a product called Red Sun. And Red Sun, right. So Red Sun is a natural hormone and chelate that we put in there to tell the plant it's time to bloom. Literally, the red dye that's in there was a marketing scheme. It wasn't mine, it was the industry's. And because I had to go up against them, we had to use a red dye to show on the shelf that we're the same product. Because like I said earlier, humans aren't the brightest people, right? We beat up plants and we go, oh, that's not red, it can't work. So we put the red dye in. So what we did is we took an organic red dye that actually inoculates the plant for red root rot. It's not 100% effective, but it works quite well. It really does. So people in water, so hydroponics who usually develop red root rot, they're seeing less and less of it by using our Red Sun. But it also triggers that plant into that bloom cycle fast. So instead of that week and a half of extra veg, now you're only getting about 3 or 4 days. And now you're getting already signs of flowers. By the end of week 1, you've got some nice pretty flowers. And by the end of week 3, you've got some decent flowers. So everything else is still in there, right? The B+ is still in there. The humic acid is still in there. And we add carbs now. So the carbs we put in through the whole blooming cycle. One of the things that this plant does that a lot of other plants don't do is when it starts to grow vigorously, when it really kickstarts itself, it will consume a lot of food. It's going to do it. And when it does that, it starts to eat its own storage away. And then you'll start seeing deficiency signs. And most of the deficiency signs you'll actually see is because of that. And they don't catch it. So a lot of people will stop feeding, which makes it even worse, and all this starts to pile up. That's why hence the 3-part. Don't go off the schedule and you'll do great, every plant. But carbs will actually, when the plant finishes storing its carbs, it doesn't have to look for it anymore because it's in the res. It's there for them. And as we know, carbs is another great way to promote the THC, right? The crystal. I mean, you take the carbs out, you're going to get probably 40% less crystal. So that's why we added in there. Of course, on the feed chart, I'll show you the 2-part, we put it as a secondary additive. So if you want to do it, great. But for beginner growers, everything in that box, we want them to use. Everything out of the box, that's up to them. I mean, it will benefit them, but it's going to add another probably $40, $45 to their feed schedule. So we give them the option whether they want to do it or not. So then, now we've taken the red sun out. Week 1's over, week 2 comes. This is where the only thing that gets kind of complicated. It's not like tomatoes, right? You feed tomato, just tomato food the whole time through, boom, you get a big tomato. These plants require different stages, okay? So in week 2, we take the red sun out, we put in a product called Bud Fusion. Bud Fusion is basically amino acids and a couple other cool things. But we actually make our own amino acids. So our amino acids are organic and they have 0 heavy metals in it, because the amino acids you buy from back east or overseas in India, China, all those places is chock full of heavy metals. So in amino acids, I don't know if you've ever seen raw amino acids. When they come, they're about 100 times drier than flour, literally. So it soaks up everything. So any industrial city like Toronto, Montreal, Shanghai, anywhere around the world, it's going to soak up all those heavy metals in the air, put them in the aminos, and then it goes into your bottle, into your res, into your plant, which we don't want. We want that plant, you know, heavy metal free. So we make our own amino acids. And then there's another chelate. Now what that product is designed to do, it's like exactly what it is, amino acids. I mean, you go bodybuilding, what do they take? They take amino acids. We all take amino acids. It starts building up that whole cell structure, pushes your flowers out, makes it nice and big and beautiful and healthy. Now, again, this is a flower, okay? So some flowers are loose and goosey and lovely, and some are hard and you know, not so loose. This flower will always stay loose if you do not tell it, because we're not letting this plant really grow naturally anymore, right? We're giving it food it cannot find in the wild, right? So it really has a hard time dealing with it. So if we just gave it the Bud Fusion and let it go right to the end, what will happen is you'll have a bunch of fluffy buds, okay? They'll be nice and fluffy, they'll be big, pretty, but there'll be no substance to them, right? So after week 6, once the Bud Fusion's done, the plant is starting to die off, we have to give it something so that it has time to harden that flower. And hardening means give it weight, give it some, you know, that structure. So then we apply jet fuel. I know the names, excuse the names, you gotta remember that I'm coming from an industry that was very gray. So, and you were dealing with people that weren't, you know, like normal people. They all liked the flashy. So when I came in the industry, I was already battling companies like General Hydroponics, Advanced Nutrition, all these guys with cool labels and cool names. And for me to get shelf space, we kind of had to do it, hence the name Jet Fuel. Jet Fuel is our finisher. So this has a lot of micronutrients in it. Also has seaweed in it, has fulvic acid, humic acid, it has vitamin C, it has all this stuff the plant needs as it's dying to finish it off to harden that plant. Right? And that's what we're after. Then when it's all said and done, 1 week after that, so now you're in the week 7, and you want to take all these salts and good stuff out, you go to Typhoon Cleanse. It's another organic product, 100% organic, and it works. It will literally go in that plant and rip all the salts out of there. Okay, it will take, in cocoa, it takes between 7 and 10 days, but it will take every single salt out of there, which leaves you with just that organic structure of the plant. I actually use this in my tomatoes, my cucumbers, peppers, everything. All my gardening stuff, I use Typhoon Cleanse. And then at the end, you cut the damn thing down, you dry it up, and boom, Bob's your uncle, you have cannabis. Seems pretty easy, doesn't it? It's not, okay? It is easy, but it's not, because you're gonna have, one of the biggest problems is around the world, there's probably 20,000 different strains of cannabis. I don't know any other plant in the world with this many strains. I can't even think of anything on this planet with that many strains. And every year it multiplies, because now once it's legal, you're gonna have people making their own strains. So they're gonna take a plant and cross it with another and another and another, and there's so many bloody strains out there. Some are weak, some are strong. Some do some things, some do other things, like sativa. Everyone understand what sativa is? or indica. These are the families, right? So sativa is that cannabis that for people who smoke it, because I don't, but for people who smoke it, it's the one they smoke before they go to the barbecue, right? Indica is the one you smoke on a Sunday afternoon when you want to watch a TV show and you never want to get off the couch. So you have all this stuff that you're going to be bombarded with these questions. One of the greatest things for you guys in this industry, knowledge is power. The more knowledge you guys have on strain-specific plants, all that stuff, more and more people come here and more people are going to want to talk to you. So you should do a little reading and understand the different strains, right? You should understand that sativa, you should understand the indica, kush, even the CBD strains like Charlotte's Web and Kryptonic and Catatonic, because people are going to ask you questions about that, right? And then of course, you know, I've been doing this for, you know, a couple years now. And I'll tell you, it's amazing on how much I don't know and how much I learned just going to Europe or talking to somebody from back east or somebody in the prairies. It just, everywhere changes. It's quite amazing, and you'll find that. But you got to do some of your own homework as well. You need to learn the strains of cannabis. And then I will help you guys with this, because if you run into a question you can't answer, I am available. You send me an email, send me a text, and I'll answer it and get back to you on that answer. Saying that, what you need for growing cannabis. I see you guys aren't going to carry tents yet, but I'm sure it will happen. You'll at least offer them, right? You got to offer them. That's going to be the majority of growers, I think, is going to be tent growers. I mean, it's sealed unit. You can do it anywhere in your home. You could do it in your basement. You could do it upstairs. You could do it in your garage, literally anywhere. And it seals everything in that one unit. And one tent with one 315 will grow close to a pound. Okay, so when you've looked on the news lately and people are paying, what, $10, $11 a gram for their cannabis, 1 pound is around $4,500. So a tent kit is around $1,200. The nutrients is a $99. Well, for now, it's going to go up to $145, but introductory. But when you add up the power, the nutrients, the cocoa, after your initial buy, you're growing for less than $200 a pound. At the initial one, it's around $1,200 for that first pound that you've grown for $4,500 retail. I mean, it's a no-brainer, right?
How many plants will that grow?
This will grow 4 plants.
Right from start to finish?
Right from start to
then
finish.
All the bottles are empty?
Nope, you will be left with some. Okay, some will remain. I mean, Gold Storm. Yeah, and then you come in, of course, then they come in. That's the whole plan, right? They come in and they go, oh, I need one of these, and I need one of these, and I need one of these, and one of these. And then the flow starts, hence the $99 introductory price, because that's $220 worth of nutrients there.
Yeah, we added it all up.
Yeah. But saying that, I mean, you're still getting a good value. There's going to be some left over. It'll make them happy. And it's a great kit because they can start off good right away, start off really good. And if you teach them how to grow good, because you're going to get a lot of people who have never grown this plant, they're going to go home and treat it like a tomato plant. And please do not do that, because if you do that, it's not going to perform. It literally won't. It's going to be ugly, and then they're never coming back, and then we lose a customer, and I won't be happy. So let's keep them happy. You can't yet. That's right, you can't yet. That's right, exactly. And seeds, you can buy seeds online everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. Grow King Seeds has been legally allowed to operate since, well, the dawn of man. I mean, you know, they're there. And I guess the licensed producers are going to sell seeds. My advice, steer clear of them, literally. These guys have zero idea what they're doing. Honestly, that's why they're failing, right? Hence, there's no pot on the market right now, right? I mean, we don't even have that many stores open. They can't supply it because they can't even get a crop off. Canopy Growth just dumped $40 million worth of cannabis in the toilet because it was polluted. So I try to steer people away from those people, right? I mean, at this point, you buy your seeds online from a reputable place, boom, you're in. Or friends. I mean, there's so many people already around here that have everything. It's not going to be hard for someone to throw a rock and go, oh, there's a guy with a clone. I mean, it's here. It's not going anywhere. Saying that, we are working on a way to bridge the gap between the nursery and you. And when that comes through, then basically they come in, they order their 4 clones, they come up to the till, they pay you, it goes to the government, goes to the nursery, shipped to them. And then everybody's happy. And it's a good thing because you don't want them here anyways, okay? The last thing you want is tiny living plants that are so fragile living here when you're paying $4 a piece for them. Because when they die, there's another 4 gone. These aren't 50-cent seedlings. You know, when it gets to the customer, it's gonna be $10. You know, and that's the starting price. And it'll go up depending on what strain it is. You get an original strain, it's about $15, right? You know, so we will bridge that gap. But saying that, you have a clone. I don't know how you guys do your tomatoes or any of your plants, but usually you start the seed, right? You do a seed soak, you put it in, germinate it, the seed starts to grow, you take that, you put it in a little beer cup, grows cute little roots out till it's healthy, then you pop it out, put it in a bigger one, and then plant it, right? You look after her, right? Because that's what we all do here, or we're all liars, I'm sure, because I'm sure none of us really do that. We beat them up and hopefully they grow. But the proper way is to do it that way. And then you move them up into sizes until you get to the final medium, what you're gonna flower in. And then once that's at that medium, usually takes about 2 weeks from a clone to the time you flip. And then the majority, when I'm saying majority, 90% of all Kansas plants mature out at around 8 weeks. So 2 and 8, 10 weeks, you're done. That doesn't include the germination period, right? So if you teach them how to do a seed soak, so you take the Black Storm, right here, and you add 50 milliliters of Black Storm to 1 liter of water, and you soak your seeds for 12 hours, then germinate them. By the way, it works great for tomatoes. Amazing. We've got studies for it too. I'll send you the studies. And you'll produce probably 30% more tomatoes by just doing that seed soak. It's amazing. Yeah, it is a great transfer product, and we'll talk more about that. But that's basically what it is. So you have this nice little plant, grows to about here, you flip it to your 12 hours, and 8 weeks later, you're cutting it down. Your job's over. I mean, the rest is up to them. Now, what I say is anyone who buys my products, I will teach them how to make their own creams and their own tinctures, you know, and I will teach all of you guys this. And that way, anyone who comes in and buys our products, you teach them. And when you think about this, now, say you get a guy, he comes in, he buys a tent, goes home, grows a pound of marijuana. He goes, what the hell am I gonna do with a whole pound of marijuana? I mean, literally, I don't know anybody who could smoke that much. I know I can't, but honestly, that's a lot. So that's where the tinctures and the creams come in. Okay, so it takes about 3 ounces of cannabis flower, we call it. It takes about 3 ounces of that to make about 2 years supply of cream for 1 human. So go to a dispensary and see what they charge for that cream. It's $40 for 2 ounces. And that 2 ounces is gonna last you about a week and a half. So now again, do you wanna go buy it or you wanna grow it? This is why a lot of retirees are getting into it. Why wouldn't you? I mean, this is literally cheap medicine, okay? Tinctures, same thing. You're looking at around maybe 4 ounces to make enough tincture to last you probably 3 years for 1 human. Now go price that out at a dispensary. You know, like I love all these people like Dana Larson and all these guys preaching and everything. Yeah, people need their medicine. Of course he is, because he owns the bloody dispensaries. I mean, of course he's preaching that. How about this? Why not preach, hey, why don't you grow your own and make your own medicine, and then you're not paying, you know, $50 for a little 30 ml bottle of tincture. You know, now you're making it for around, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna say $1.50. Like, you know, now it becomes affordable, right? And then I'll teach you the strains to grow that. So when you have the retirees coming in, when they're coming, I'm telling you they're coming because I was just at a show and they're buzzing about it, they want it. So when they start coming in, we'll teach them how to make all that. We'll teach them what strains to grow, because now they're not looking after the Kush, they're not looking for the sativa, they're looking for strain specific plants, Kryptonic, Canatonic, Charlotte's Web, Israeli X. All this stuff that's extremely high in CBDs and not so high in THC. Okay, but you still want that THCA, so that's why I said Kryptonic. And we'll talk more about this too. Like I'll do a bit more later on strain specifics. You know, when things start to flow and more people are coming, then we'll even get a bit more in depth, and I'll come back and do a more in-depth one, because by then everyone's done their homework, right? So everyone's gonna read about humic acid, because I see everybody's so excited. I mean, literally your eyes are popping. And you're gonna read about different strains of cannabis, and you're gonna have all this information in your head, and then when I come back, you guys are gonna riddle me with questions. Yeah, so the question was, these people are gonna wanna grow their plants in their garden beside their tomatoes, beside all that good stuff. And yes, they can, and yes, they can use the full line. And then, like I was saying, there's two different types of plants. There's indoor cannabis and outdoor cannabis. If you take indoor cannabis and grow it outside, the chances are if you do not manipulate that plant, it's gonna go through the roof and you're gonna grow buds about that big, and it's gonna be stringy and ugly and disgusting. Same ways, if you take an outdoor plant and throw it indoor, two things can happen. One, it'll grow like a vine, literally take over the whole room, or it'll just stop and grow one tiny bud and be done with it, right? So, and the difference is the indoor plants work on the time, okay? So weeks, basically they're a 8-week plant. Outdoor work on hours of light. So when the hours start to change, so does the plant, okay? So then when that hour changes to a certain point, then the plant starts to flower. And then you wait till it finishes, and hopefully it finishes before winter comes. Otherwise it's gone, right? You lose a lot. But again, like I say, a lot of people who do grow outdoors, they take my red sun, especially in the Kootenays, and this has been for 10 years, they take the red sun and they kickstart it. So they get the plant to about this high, and then they double up on the red sun, and it forces that plant to go into bud, which is a good thing. And then it takes about 10, 12 weeks to come off, as opposed to, up to 16, 18 weeks, right? So that's the indoor-outdoor thing. And they can't be seen. So I know, Grandma and Grandpa want to go out and show off their plants and all, but they're taking a chance. Greenhouse is the best. Really. And a lot of plants really do well in them, just amazingly well, especially if it's for their own medicine. It's the best way to do it. And then subsidize it indoors. And, Yeah. Any other questions? Questions? You're talking, you got to have a question if you're talking.
No, for sure. Well, and just back to, someone's going to come in and they want the product, and you kind of hit it on here when the question I asked. So what hardware do you need to start growing hydroponics?
Okay, so the hardware. Hardware is actually really basic. It's amazing. Everyone kind of overcomplicates this plant. So they talk CO2 and all this stuff, air conditioning. You don't need that. You just need the right environment. And the right environment for this plant is 82 degrees. Do not go above 82, all right? Do not go below 76 when they sleep. That is their mark. You get it between 76 and 82, that plant is loving life. So one light in a tent with one charcoal filter, one extractor fan, because nobody wants that smell. If it's in the house, you don't want to smell that all the time. So that takes away the smell. Also circulates the air because you can't suffocate the plant. You put 2 little fans, the little 8-inch wall fans. So 2 of those on the plant to give it the wind so that it, doesn't become stringy and spaghetti-like. And 4 pots, 4 saucers, a pump, a reservoir, and a water wand. And that's all you need to successfully grow plants. It's not a lot. It really isn't. The best part is you get a good quality tent, a good quality light, a good quality extractor fan and filter, and you don't have to replace a thing for the first 3 years. After the 3-year mark, you're replacing the bulb, which is about $140, and you're replacing the charcoal filter, which is about $80. So in 3 years, that's your only expense on this grow tent. If you buy quality. Now, there's a lot of cheap stuff out there, so customers will come in and go, oh, I bought that. Well, you know what, stick to quality. I will show you some stuff later and get you set up. So if people want to order it, we'll get it to you. But honestly, this thing is self-sufficient. It's cheap to grow. It's really cheap to grow. Small scale. Large scale, it multiplies. So when you talk about LPs, now the LPs are whining, right? They're going, oh God, we got to charge this. How are we supposed to make money? Well, of course, because they never did their homework. We had a bunch of corporate stooges with billions of dollars come into Canada and try to take all our money. But they didn't quite realize that when you get that big and even from 1 light to 10 lights, the cost magnifies, okay? And you go from 10 lights to 100 lights, holy Jesus. These guys are in the thousands. So they're probably growing a pound of pot for around $900 to $1,100 So you imagine how much they have to sell that for. They can't sell it for, you know, 1,500. They're not going to make any money. 80, you know, we got 45 billion dollars invested in these guys. You know, they've got to make their money. And then the store needs to make money, and the government needs to make their money. So who's going to pay? The guy smoking it. That's why they're all whining. One, they can't grow in that large a thing without dealing with powdery mildew, bugs, which we should touch on right now. Powdery mildew and bugs. You are going to get these questions. People are going to come in here and go, I got powdery mildew. The bugs, you guys deal with beneficial, I'm assuming? Bugs with benefits? Okay. There's specific bugs with benefits that will not multiply in your house. You need, I've got someone for you to talk to, and her name, I can't remember her name, but she runs bugs with benefits, and she's an expert, and she will steer you right. So she won't give you ladybugs for a house. No. As we all know, they will replace all your insulation, literally. But she will give you the right bugs for the right predator, because there's several predators this plant hates. One is spider mites, the other one is thrips, fungus gnats, and root aphids. Those are the 4 main buggers that really go to town on these plants, like literally. So she has, like, I always recommend that because there's really no spray out there, okay? There isn't. You're not gonna get a spray, it's not. Due diligence is your best weapon. Every time you take down, you clean your tent, you clean your light, you clean everything, you know? Bleach and water. I mean, yeah, hospital, disinfectant, you know, Sure, that'll work too, for sure. I mean, you're basically disinfecting it, you know. I'm anally that way where I want it hospital clean. You know, if it's hospital clean, I'm a happy guy. But not everyone's gonna be that way. They're gonna leave stuff laid around and bugs are gonna grow. Saying you're not gonna get bugs is like saying you're gonna win the lottery tomorrow. It's not gonna happen, literally. There's people that are gonna come in here, you have them. Guaranteed everybody in this room has them. They probably have them at home. I mean, mites will stay dormant for 800 years, you know, and people who have walked in here who have them, you've got them, they're here, right? So the best way is prevention and hope you don't get them. And if you do, go after the bugs that aren't gonna multiply bad, like Priscillus and stuff like that. As for powdery mildew, the best combat for powdery mildew is to keep your plants apart. I mean, when they're touching, you got a problem. If you let your plants get too big, you're gonna have a problem. This industry, the cannabis industry for the last 30 years has kind of killed us. When they started developing powdery mildew, they had no idea how to deal with it. Same with bugs, okay? We're talking a bunch of stoners in their basement hiding out and trying to take care of these problems. And they're trying to use professional methods, but they weren't following the professionals, and they literally was creating superbugs and super powdery mildew. And I brought back some organic powdery mildew killer from the UK. And it was turned on to me by the London Botany Society. And I brought back 6 cases, and I handed it out to everyone I knew. And everyone came back and said it did nothing to our powdery mildew. Over there, it kills it dead. And it's organic, it's beautiful, use it right up to the end, food, everything. Here, nothing. Okay, so it's a very tough thing to kill. I tell people use home remedies and keep it down is your best method. I mean, to try to go to some chemical form or organic chemical, they don't work. They literally don't work. And LPs are finding this out, hence the $40 million toss in the toilet because of powdery mildew. They couldn't get it passed. It was real powdery mildew and they can't kill it. So home remedies and talk to the bug lady and prevention. That's it.
Are there any plants that are, like we talk about complementary plants when we plant the garden, like partner kind of plants? Is there anything that shouldn't be grown?
You know, it's funny you say that because when you talk about that whole symbiotic relationship between plants and stuff, it's all great, but that's all new now. That's literally new. Nobody's really taken a cannabis plant and tried to discover what plants work best around it. So this is the best time because we're gonna have a lot of people who are really great gardeners, like really. I mean, I've walked into 2 people's gardens where their tomato plants are so beautiful and just all their plants are extremely healthy, and those people are now gonna take on this plant. And that's just exciting to me because they're gonna tell us information that we had no idea about. And that's one of them, for sure. So that would be interesting to see. Most plants really don't like each other to begin with, and cannabis is no exception. So when you do grow 4 different plants in a close environment like that, they are going to compete. So you're not exactly going to have the top of the crop out of that crop, but you'll get enough. I mean, you're going to do very well. You'll have enough of different strains if that's what you want to do, or grow one strain, then grow the next, and combine them. But I mean, these plants are solitary and they love to grow alone. All right. So when you take one marijuana plant and you put it in one room on one light all by itself, it is going to way outperform 4 from the same mother in one room because they like to be alone. Now imagine when they put 10,000 of these plants in one room and different strains.
Transportation of the chemicals, any restrictions?
On transportation of mine,
Yeah.
0.
Say somebody from the cusp phones us and
Yep.
ship me out 2 gallons of this.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's completely safe fertilizer. We ship it through Canada Post, we ship it through Purelator, we ship it through everybody. We have the MSDS sheets for them. So if they want a copy, which they probably already have on record, but yeah, you could ship every one of my products. Nothing's flammable, nothing's explodable. It's all quite beautiful stuff. Ship it everywhere. Ship it around the world. The States. I like your attitude.
Actually, we've had a few requests for soil to go down to the States, but we can't ship it.
Yeah, soil to the States is a bit of a nightmare. I got a friend of mine got his whole shipment confiscated. And then he tried that ballsy move and shipped it through anyways. And then they caught the train in Dakota, North Dakota. And now he's in a whole lot of hot water.
What's the rules around MSDS? Do you have to have MSDS sheets for all this?
I think, okay, because it is a commercial fertilizer, right? I mean, even those are commercial fertilizer. Most of the fertilizer dealt in the cannabis market is commercial. You should have MSDS on hand, and we will get you a copy of it. All the hydro stores have MSDS on hand, and you should have it just for WMIS anyways, right? Because if you do get some of this stuff in your eye, it's going to burn. It won't blind you. I'm not worried about that, but it's going to burn. So you should have all that together, and we will definitely ship that out. Good question on that. But most of it is organic. I mean, that's organic. I mean, we got a lot of organics already.
And touching on soil, you recommending the cocoa?
I recommend people don't ever grow in soil again and go straight to cocoa.
Just cocoa.
Just cocoa. Honestly, I recommend that for everything. Everything. Cocoa, the cocoa, yeah, cocoa core, cocoa rind. I don't know if you ever seen it. Oh, I've got a bag. I got a bag in my truck. I was going to bring it in. Cocoa's great because one, it's renewable, and it's the greatest thing. I mean, you're going into third world countries now, and the respectable ones like Urban Garden will actually deal with them and not rob them, and you're not destroying these beautiful bogs that took multi-millions of years to create that we're destroying. And growing in cocoa, even vegetables in cocoa, is truly amazing. It really is. The one thing you should know about cocoa, at no time ever can you just put water in cocoa. You have to put some form of base nutrient in cocoa until the very end, of course. But throughout the whole cycle, you cannot just give it water because cocoa needs to be charged. Cocoa has this really beautiful ability to steal magnesium and calcium from the soil, from the nutrients. So when you feed cocoa, if it's not a properly charged cocoa, it will literally take the calcium and magnesium out. So saying that, the Urban Garden is really beautifully charged. So when you get that, it's a good time for you to get it. And I'll tell you why. They're still a boutique company. They're not in every single store. They're not making mountains of cocoa. They're just like this small little company making their way. And every batch is perfectly charged. So when you deal with a big place where you have to fill, say, 60 pots, you could take that cocoa, rip it open, and put it in every pot and keep going. Whereas almost all the other cocoa in the market, I would always suggest take 5 or 6 bags, rip them all open, mix them up, and then do it. Otherwise, you'll have inconsistencies in your plants because it's not perfectly charged. And then you got to start adding stuff like CalMag and all that good stuff. I mean, that's the cocoa.
Just Urban Garden.
mixed into your garden for the compost, or what do you do with it?
Okay, what we do, so when we're done at, used to be my test facility, it's now gone, but we would take them, we would take the ball out, put the ball in the compost and the main root, and then dump it, crush it right into the garden. Done. And it builds up your garden beds, builds up your garden. It's amazing. And just the aeration factor of that is just, it's remarkable stuff. When you start playing in cocoa, you'll get addicted. You'll want to grow everything in cocoa. I know it happened to us, and I just, no, nope, no, no perlite. That should be banned. Sorry, excuse language. Edit that. No perlite. Perlite is nasty. That stuff never rots. I walk through bush, sometimes on trails, and see that stupid stuff everywhere. Perlite is evil. And a lot of these growers used it. And that's why, still use it. So that's why I recommend the 50-50 blend. Like I say, I'll bring the bag in because it's got the nice chunks. You don't need that. It kind of keeps it so it doesn't compact. It doesn't hold moisture like soil, which is another good thing because this plant doesn't need a swamp to grow in. All right, like it wants to be dry. Its roots wants to be dry. They don't want to be continually wet. The other thing is with cocoa, you can never drown that plant. With soil, you pour water in, that soil's holding it. With cocoa, it goes right through and leaves everything in there. And then if your plant is not consuming and you got to go to the emergency backup of forage spraying, then at least that will dry out and you can start again. Because after all, your root zone is your most important zone.
Okay, so when you put that into your compost,
Yep.
and your dog comes over and gets it and eats it,
Well, I'll bring my dog in and you can have a look at her. She's eating all kinds of cocoa. Honestly. Well, they eat it because what happens is not all the black storm comes out. So when you put it in your garden, that black storm is still in there. And my dogs absolutely love my black storm. If there's a spill of black storm on that ground, they will go and lick it. Even after it's been mopped and cleaned, they will go back and lick that stuff up. They absolutely love it. But it's not bad. Cocoa's not bad. It will not hurt an animal, absolutely.
So if somebody says, I'm going to get the container of the number 7 mix with the wetting agent so I don't have to water it so much.
And we're getting that.
Of course. I mean, there's a lot of people you'll never, there's a lot of growers out there that have like 7 or 10 years under their belt and they have a specific way of doing things and there's nothing you're ever going to say. Okay, I'm here to teach you how to deal with the beginners because we don't want those bad habits anymore. We don't want these people like that container full that's going to take it, use it, and then dump it out in the back 40. I mean, and then all of a sudden it looks like it just snowed. I don't want that anymore. I'd rather have it like, that was a great question because I'd rather have it that you could take it, throw it in your compost or literally take it out to your front yard, put it into your shrubs and it doesn't look weird. It just blends right in and starts to build up your soil levels. I mean, yeah, so that's what I say anyways. But you're still gonna get the big boys and stuff. Well, yeah, wetting agents, I mean, I see there's some here, but wetted agents were used for a specific reason. I don't see it being a reason in this growth at all, in anything we do. We don't need it.
So I read where anything consumable, whether it's your tomatoes or peppers, don't use it because it doesn't allow, it does, I can't remember.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because most wetting agents, if they're made wrong, you don't know when that's coming out. So the wetting agent is designed to keep something in place. Right? So when you're consuming something, you really want to know when that's coming out. Okay, so when I was touching on pesticides and how the growers for the last 30 years has been really corrupting the system, that was one of them because a company like Syngenta, who makes a product called Avid. Avid was a very popular one. Do not, you can record this, do not post this because we don't want new growers to know about it. So Avid was very popular for spider mites. And then what was happening was it wasn't working so well because they weren't listening. So instead of putting the proper amount, they were doubling it or tripling it. And well, that doesn't do anything now. Basically what happens is the wetting agent that Syngenta was using is now being overloaded and can't get into the plant or harder into the plant and it's not killing all the spider mites. And then the spider mites take a bite and they go, that feels gross. And then after about 7 times, they're like, that feels good, give me more. right? Kind of like the corn weevil or whatever that's Monsanto ruined for us, right? So for me, wetting agents does that type of damage. I mean, it'll take your product or whatever product and put it in there. So in this industry, we had a lot of people just jump in, and they have zero idea about chemistry or botany or plants or anything. So they look on the shelf and they go, oh, there's a product, oh, look at this one. I think I could knock that off. And then they go to some other guy and they go, oh, we can probably find a recipe online. And then they start using whatever raw materials, okay? And that's where the bad part comes. So wetting agents, bad, I don't. It's not worth it. And even the homemade ones with dish soap and what everybody uses, there's a reason why we as a company developed this, and we give you the guidelines to use it, because this is the best, safest way to use it. You know, and that's the same with pesticides and herbicides. I mean, pesticides and herbicides were not bad. We made them bad. We overused them because we didn't respect them. We didn't listen to the companies that were selling them. And now it's to a point where they're pretty much useless, right? I mean, literally useless.
Then touch on the sea storm.
Oh, sea storm, right. Or seaweed. The sea storm is on the feed chart, but again, it's one of those extras. I use it, of course. I use it in my tomato production. I use it in all that stuff. So we take seaweed from the East Coast, we take kelp from the West Coast, and we put humic acid in and a couple other nice, beautiful little organic materials. And sea storm, like it works. You guys know what seaweed does to a plant. I mean, it's just freaking amazing. I recommend manufactured seaweed for the fact that we deal with farmers. So they go out there, they grow their own seaweed, they grow their own kelp, they run around their little boats and gather it up and make me my seaweed. And it's done responsibly, where some people will go down to the beach, rake up a bunch of seaweed, grind it all up and throw it in their garden. Well, the problem is the sea needs that, like we need that. I mean, that's just us being greedy. So why not pay someone to go out and do it properly, then of course pay me to make it, and then pay you to buy it, and then we're all happy. But at least we're not killing smelt and all the small migratory fish that get caught in the seaweed, right? Like the biggest culprit, Jimmy Pattison. But so that's the seaweed. But seaweed for plants, I mean, it has cytokines, it has all those natural hormones, it does that beautiful growth at the start, keeps them healthy, green, strong. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I would throw it in, well, I do, I throw it in everything, right? And then as for crossovers, when you're talking to gardeners, the tomatoes, I do use micro and grow in my tomato plants, but it's mostly B+, Sea Storm, and Black Storm. That's all I use for our tomatoes at home. And if people start doing that, they're gonna see amazing things with their tomatoes. Wow, I mean, the woody stem in my tomatoes are this big. That's it, this big, on a tomato that size. I mean, it's just all flesh, and just it's truly amazing. And then basically, Gold Storm, of course. All these products can be used for everything. They really can. This three-part, originally, the three-part was designed for tomato growers, for greenhouses. And that's where it started about 50 years ago, actually probably longer. I'm gonna say 50 years because that's when someone was stealing their recipes. But because hydroponics has been around since what, the 1800s, right? So in the States, they've been hydroponically growing a long time. But this is an actual commercial greenhouse formula with a little bit more. Because they don't, you know, most greenhouses can't afford it. They can't afford the raw materials I use. You know, it's not like they're getting, you know, $1,500 a pound for tomatoes. And to use the ingredients that are in here are not gonna make that happen. So they're not. Saying that, I do sell this to a tomato greenhouse, commercial greenhouse in the Kootenays, just outside of Nelson. But I take a few things out and make it a bit more affordable for them. And they do quite well with it, like really well. So, no private labels. I don't do that. But for people who are, you know, got like 4 or 5 tomato plants on their deck and they want to see some really cool production, follow it. It's just amazing what it will do. It really is. And the seed soak, very important for tomatoes, right? You know, foliar spray them when they're young, So if you forest spray Black Storm at 3 mils per liter when they're little babies, don't fear the black residue it leaves on it. All the new growth doesn't have that, but it gets into the cells. It does amazing things. I'll share those studies with you. Yeah, only for tomatoes. And for the strong-hearted, because it's going to turn your tomato plant black, eh? You know, and people go, ah. We haven't done any studies on peppers, but I would say, yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, why wouldn't it be, right? We didn't do any studies on that because we were going after the tomato market and the rice market. So we did that's where we first discovered the seed soak was in the Philippines. So we deal with rice farmers in the Philippines, and they buy a lot of our humic acid at a different concentration and in bigger vats, of course. And then they just flood it. Like, oh, what's that? Oh yes, potatoes. Give your potatoes. You grow potatoes every year? Oh, that's too bad. Well, I'll tell you.
Well, I'm just saying the questions people are going to ask.
Yeah, every single commercial potato farmer in the world uses humic acid. Every single one. And there's a reason. One, you get 30% bigger potatoes and you get almost 50% more potatoes. And they're healthier and cleaner. That's how Idaho took the market, by the way, because they discovered it. And then all of a sudden, all their farmers was using humic acid, and no one could keep up. They just couldn't keep up, and they took the market. So yes, Black Storm for all root vegetables, carrots, beets, turnips, all of it. And of course, it also puts that humic value in that vegetable, right? So you're also consuming the humic, which you need to do.
Does it stay? I know you don't like soil, but you're growing potatoes in soil. Does that humic stay in your soil? Does it sort of, is it like magnesium? It just sort of.
It will stay for quite a while, but yes, rain will take it out. It's going to happen. To build up your humic levels properly, you should be doing all kinds of things, right? I mean, you make your garden healthy and stop using really harsh chemicals and, you know, treating it right. But one of the pieces is you want to start adding leonardite. Okay, so we're actually coming out with leonardite pouches, 2 kilogram pouches for farmers, not farmers, for home growers. And one of those pouches should do a regular size, like 20 by 40 foot garden, 2 years. So you build it up. So what you do is however you do it, I don't recommend tilling, but people do, and you kill worms that way. But you know, if you get your thing all nice and pretty, and then you go in and you sprinkle the leonardite on top, and then just work it in, and then next year do the same, and about 4 or 5 years, then that humic will start building up in the soil. Okay, we're working with the agricultural department in Colorado and in Saskatchewan and Alaska, Yukon, Oregon to recover land. And humic acid and leonardite is one of the best things. It'll literally take clay and over a 5-year period turn it into soil. That's the abilities humic acid has. It's amazing.
Hallelujah.
Because you probably have clay, right? Yeah. Ooh. Sweet, we can change their lives. But it's a process, right? It literally is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to sprinkle this magic dust on it and next year you're growing everything under Jack and the beanstalk. You go up there and knock them out and take all the beans. It doesn't work like that. But over a 4 or 5 year period, it will literally turn that into beautiful soil, like amazing stuff. You still have to do all your compost and everything else anyways. I mean, that's all part of gardening. Not for me, I don't do it anymore. I'm not allowed. I'm on the road. How's that? Any other questions? Yeah, and it'll make them happy. I mean, the one thing our company has is the wow factor. When people use our stuff, they come back and they say it, wow. Like it's just really, it does some amazing things. And we take pride in that. I mean, we don't use anything illegal. We had Health Canada come through our warehouse and I said, you're welcome, take any sample you want. And they took our red sun and they went, anything illegal in here? I said, no, why? Oh, why would anyone who would do that? And she goes, you'd be surprised. I'm like, oh my God, like what's out there? So we do take pride in our products. I mean, they're extremely clean, which makes it easier for that beginner. That's very important. Yes, and it does. Once you start using humic and fulvic in your vegetables, that health goes into you. That expression, you are what you eat, is for real, man. I mean, even the seaweed. the nutritional value that's in seaweed. Everyone goes, eat seaweed, eat seaweed. Well, grow with it, because those same nutrients are going into your carrots. They're going into your tomatoes. They're going into everything. So yeah, that's why I use it anyways. All right, well, thanks for coming out, guys.
Okay, thank you.
And then there's shirts here. Everyone can come grab a shirt. Just pick your size. I'm not going to do that, but they're these. They're made right on Vancouver Island, local artist from Comox.
Is it all in Campbell River? Is that where your facility is?
Yeah, everything here is mixed in Campbell River except for the Black Storm or Gold Storm, which is made right now in Zenon Park, Saskatchewan.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he was giving a lecture on unlock your truck and all. Be out, it might be getting warm in there.
She's probably liking that.